In this lesson, we are going to discuss the pen tool. Now, the pen tool can intimidate a lot of people, so we are going to make it simple and simplified for you. Really, the pen tool is very simple when you break it down to its sort of core components of just clicking or clicking and dragging. It's really all you want to think about at this point. Right? We're thinking about that we're just drawing out individual anchor points, and initially it's just going to be a bunch of corners. And eventually you may want to manipulate those corners using your direct selection tool, possibly adding on additional corners or anchor points with your add anchor point tool that we learned about in the last lesson. So let's just see what we can do here. We're just going to draw out just some basic shapes, and maybe we even create something just using something very simple like our pen tool. So where does the pen tool live? It's going to live right inside here, and you can see it has a nice little keyboard shortcut of P. And I'm going to simply just choose that. Now we're just going to draw out some very simple lines. I don't really need any kind of fill. So what I'm going to do is just click on my little slash right there. And all I'm going to have now is just a very, very simple stroke. That's going to be 1 point. So now how do we use the pen tool? Just really think about it like you're just drawing out anchor points, but you're not clicking and dragging, you're just doing anchor points. So all I'm going to do is just simply click once, I have an anchor point, and I'm just moving my mouse here. I'm not clicking and dragging, it looks like I am, but I'm just going to go ahead and click again. And then watch this, I'm going to go ahead and click again. And now this time, let's kind of have some fun with this. Click, 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 and then go up to here, click, and then, oh, to the peak. Okay, great. Click, 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 and then finally click here. And now watch this. I'm going to hold down the Shift key as I move my mouse across this way. Why am I holding down the Shift key? Because I want to keep it in a nice straight line until I get to the beginning. And then you'll notice how when I close the loop, I now get this little circle to tell me that I'm now in fact done with that. And now this entire thing is one big object. And I've now just drawn out this little mountain range, right? So very simple. Now, because this is one big object, I can then put in the color of my choice. So I'm going to come back over to here, double click it, and just do some Purple Mountains Majesty, click OK, and now the whole thing is now filled in. Okay, that's great. And you'll notice I do actually still have that stroke around there. I can very easily get rid of that if I want to. I'll come back over to here and I'll just type in 0, and now I have no stroke. But I use that stroke to initially create it very simply with the pen tool. Okay, so very, very cool. Now, again, recall I can add on more sort of ridges to this mountain by going over to my add anchor point tool, and let's just go ahead and do maybe one up here and then one up there. And now I go back to my direct selection tool, and I'm just going to go ahead and click and drag down just like that and like that. And now you can see, very cool, I've now just created something kind of interesting. Maybe this is your logo. Maybe it's just going to be just something on a t-shirt, something like that, with just some basic lines that we've drawn with our pen tool. Okay? Now, this was relatively simple, relatively straightforward, because with this particular pen tool, I was just using my corners. But if you ever want to work with curves, it's going to be a little bit different. And instead of now clicking and clicking and clicking, I'm going to click and drag. And that's going to create some of those curves that we saw in our previous lesson. And it's also going to give us those Bezier handles that we saw in previous lessons. So what am I going to do now? I'm going to go back to my pen tool, and I'm going to just say, listen, I don't need any kind of fill here. So you'll notice how I can come to here and also do my little slash. And I do want to have some kind of color. And just for fun, let's go ahead and just choose this nice little orange color. And now this time, I'm going to click once, just like that. And then when I get to here, watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to click and drag, just like that. I'm going to go maybe about halfway, just like this. Come over to here, and watch this. I'm going to just simply click. And I'm going to come over to here. I'm going to click and drag. I'm going to go about halfway, bringing it in, just like that. Okay. Great, I come over to here, and I'm just going to simply click. And now notice I'm just coming over here, I'm holding down the Shift key to get a straight line, just like that. And then I'm just going to go ahead and click again once I see that little circle. And then bam, you'll see I have this nice little shape here. Maybe I'm drawing out two tunnels, right? Something like that, side by side, right? Whatever this, maybe this is going to be an aerial view of somebody looking down, something like that. You're now, or you're just starting this off to be something else, okay? But what did I do here to make this happen? Notice when I clicked and I came up to here, I clicked and dragged. That gave me the curve, okay? When I came down to here, it was still already curved, but I clicked once to make this part just a hard angle. It's kind of like a little hybrid there, okay? So this part is curved and this part is not curved, giving birth to something else that is not going to be curved because this is now a corner until I come up to here and click and drag. Now I have the ability to then play around with these Bezier handles to then play around with it a little bit, right? So I'm just going to go ahead and click and drag out just like that. Okay, make that a little bit wider. Come over to here, make this also a little wider. Okay, very cool. All right, let's do the same thing on this side. Do that. See how easy that is? Just like that. Now we have all that kind of control for us to work with. Now, just building out 2 airplane hangars, whatever it's going to be. Let's go ahead and now just add in a little bit of color. So select your object, going back to my regular selection tool, and then let's go ahead and maybe just for fun to get a little bit of a taste what we're going to do in the future, maybe you want to try out some of these little gradients, right, to get a little bit of a different feel, like something like that. Maybe even one of these patterns, right? Just see what's available here. You're just kind of playing around and then just seeing what we can do very, very easily that's outside of the ordinary of what we've already done with colors. Okay, so that's essentially the pen tool. Now, if you have something that you're going to be tracing, you would essentially be doing that type of thing. Like you'd be moving your mouse around, sometimes clicking and dragging, but don't worry about getting it perfect. What a lot of artists do is they just simply click, click, click with the corners, and then after the fact, they go in and they manipulate it. Okay, so you might come in here and let's just imagine you had something else you wanted to kind of draw kind of wider. This is just a hard corner. Very easily, you could then convert this into something else, come over to here, make that a little bit wider, and now you're curving alongside of just like whatever it's going to be, right? It's going to be like an opera house, something like that. But it started off as just a very, very simple corner. So that's what I want to at least have like the gist of this lesson is to not be intimidated by the pen tool and don't worry about getting it perfect. Because most people, when you're drawing, you just have very, very simple corners, and then that's kind of your skeleton. And then after the fact, you can either convert the style of the anchor point, meaning it's going to be a corner to a curve or vice versa. And then, of course, we can come in with our add anchor point tool and add on more stuff and just have a little bit more, flexibility, a little more nuance, and then just kind of continue on from there to have a very different shape entirely. Okay, so just playing around with all those individual anchor points, do what you want to do, but you might have something underneath there that you are tracing, and you can very, very easily go from there. But do not be intimidated by the pen tool. It seems a little bit difficult at first, but try those basics, and then eventually all the other more complex shapes you want to create will then come naturally. All right, pause the video, practice this, and I can assure you, you'll do great after a few tries.
If you're not a subscriber, click down below to subscribe so you get notified about similar videos we upload. To see the full course that this video came from, click over there. And click over there to see more videos from Simon Says It.